when I met one of the managing directors of the rail company, Alstom. So he sold the idea of how rail is the green way in future, how it is going to be environmentally friendly, the rail industry.
Among the larger railways, which are more than 50,000 kilometers, we'll become the greenest railway.
You start project after project and then technology after technology. So my journey was, at least in the last 25, 28 years, I learned a lot in this industry, yes.
Railways is about large projects, sir. What leadership qualities have actually helped you?
Particularly in rail domain is that you cannot escape the requirement of technical expertise. You may become the CEO, you may become the chairman of an organization. Then if you don't know the fundamental technical things, it is absolutely difficult to understand how the project works.
What gaps do you see in technical people when you would have seen hundreds and thousands of technical people whom you've tried to groom them as leaders?
Every engineer cannot become the great leader. It is not like leaders are not born. Earlier days used to say that he is a born leader. I personally believe that leaders also are made. You have to work for that. As a leader, you should start looking at trying to empathize with your people. I can say, yes, if not 100 out of 100 engineers, at least 90 out of 100 engineers can be groomed into becoming a good managers, and maybe another 50% of that can become great leaders also.
Welcome everyone. I welcome you all to this yet another insightful podcast where we invite best minds in railways to help us delve into the future of global rail industry. And today I have an exceptional leader, Mr. Ravi Prakash, who has led many top of the class railway companies in the entire world, especially in India. He has been instrumental in setting up bases for companies like Thales, Alstom, and many other companies. So welcome, sir. Welcome to this podcast.
Thank you so much, Sumit. Thank you for inviting me to this wonderful place as well as on a wonderful day. This is at IIM Kashipur campus, and I'm very happy to be with all of you here today. And it's always a pleasure to work with you guys and also see the young minds in the campuses and talk to them about my experiences.
Thank you, sir. So before we start delving into the perspectives about railway industry, I would like to ask you about your early days. How did the journey for rail leadership started at your end? And how did you join railway industry? What prompted you to come into this sector?
Well, it was by chance, I would call it. I was in the aviation sector before, and as well as the water and environmental industry. And from there, I was in the United Kingdom to make a presentation in the Enviro mission when I met one of the managing directors of the rail company, Alstom. And during that particular discussion, he talked about how rail is the green way in future, how it is going to be environmentally friendly, the rail industry. So he sold the idea of moving from environment industry to rail. So I was already working in these industries for more than a decade and a half. So I'm not a young guy coming into rail industry, but then yes, I was in my mid 30s or late 30s, I would call. And then I got into the rail industry. But for me, I was a newcomer. I never had any exposure to the railway technologies. So I had to learn everything from the scratch. It was the first experience for me to work in the United Kingdom, and where we had a very good training facilities. So whatever I lost as an engineer, I gained everything in that particular period of 1 to 2 years. And yeah, after that, it was like, you start project after project and then technology after technology. So my journey was, at least in the last 25, 28 years, going through the developments of railway, and I learned a lot in this industry, yes. And while spreading the knowledge all over, I also became a very, very different person. Now I can understand and I can appreciate why and how the railway industry can change this entire world.
So railways is about large projects, sir. So I would like to know what leadership qualities have actually helped you, which you developed over time, that have helped you transform railway projects, companies in your tenure as a rail leader.
Yeah, it is not a bed of roses. I always say that you become a leader and then you start working with your group of team. And as I said, the qualities that are very, very essential, particularly in rail domain, is that you cannot escape the requirement of technical expertise. That is first and foremost. You may become the CEO, you may become the chairman of an organization, but then if you don't know the fundamental technical things, it is absolutely difficult to understand how the project works. So you need not be an expert to the grassroots level, but at least you should know at the system level what is required, what is the way you do things, and so this is one of the requirements of the project.
Could you share some examples of your?
So let us talk about metro system. Metro systems are not like your normal Indian railway. It's a closed loop system, and in this particular case, you have the automatic train protection. In a metro environment, what is the first and foremost? Your passenger looks for making a quick travel from one place to other place, and more frequent travel. He needs the train to be there every 3 minutes, every 5 minutes, which may not be the case with mainline railways. So the way you look at things are different. Now the technology that you are going to provide for this is quick succession of trains. That means your timetabling, scheduling, everything should become very, very precise and accurate. That the metro trains, they run with 3-minute, 2-minute headways, we call them. And in these 2-minute headway, even a delay of 1 second is causing tension to your commuter.
Yes.
So they don't like, the timings have to be perfect. And similarly, when the trains are running at such a high precision and high frequency, the chances of accidents may increase. So you have to have your train protection systems. So automatic train protection, for that matter, is an important technology which, more than the mainline system, the metros were looking for, which was not available at that point of time in India. So
stories around this, some projects.
So these are the projects. Every metro project today in India has got this automatic train protection. Every metro system in India, starting with Delhi, then moving to Bangalore, and then subsequently to other cities, which are...
Any specific story you would like to share with us, where you actually faced some sort of a problem, and how did you respond to that issue?
I would not use the name. In one of the metro projects, which is a broad gauge metro. So globally, internationally, if you look at it, many people will say standard gauge is the international standard for metro. Whereas in India, it was a broad gauge metro. And then the broad gauge metro with a overhead electrification system and all that. And there was a lot of doubts and the suspicion in the mind of the customer as well as the suppliers, because the suppliers were companies like the company where I was working for Alstom and all that. So we were also worried because this was not done anywhere else. There were no broad gauge underground metro. So your tunnels, your overhead electrification cannot work there. So you have to go for rigid electric system, catenary. And so this was a challenge. So neither the customer nor the supplier were confident. But then, yes, you have to do the design work, you have to work on this, and then ultimately these are the challenges. And at one point of time, we did not know whether to go ahead or not to go ahead. So that was causing delays in the total project. But yes, thanks to those people who really worked on both sides, I would say from the customer side as well as from the supplier side. And we ensured that the technology has been properly provided, and we ensured that the project took off. And a broad gauge metro definitely will have its own advantages. It can take more passengers, but at the same time, it will have the risk of, the radius of curvatures and all that, taking longer routes, so higher civil engineering costs. So thankfully, the subsequent metros that came, they were all more into standard gauge. There are not many broad gauge metros. So this is a lesson learned. So every time there is a challenge, there is a lesson learned. So we went through the lesson learned from Delhi into Bangalore and into other cities. So we tried the third rail systems in Bangalore, and that will have its own challenges. So that was again successfully done. So there were few projects that were coming up where people were comfortable with the signaling technology called distance to go. At that point of time, we said, this is not very efficient because the signaling does not allow more than a 3-minute headway, but we want to run the trains maybe every 90 seconds. So Hyderabad came first forward. They said, we will go ahead with the CBTC technology. So somebody has to bell the cat. So we took up that, and I said, all right, as a leader, I will take it forward. Let us go ahead with CBTC. And then we introduced. And today, if you see 10 years down the line, we have every metro in India which is a CBTC technology.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I'm not saying that this is the end of it. Something else may come up. So the driverless trains are coming up. So metro really paved the way in India to open up for the new technologies.
Okay.
And all these things I use in not just to say that Indian Railways was not so adventurous, but they also did that. Looking at their size and all that, the challenges we faced when the first interlocking was introduced in Indian Railway, it was a challenge because people were comfortable using the electromechanical relays and they were not confident of how an electronic interlocking works. But today, more than 75% of the stations in Indian Railway network are already done with electronic interlocking.
So
this is how every challenge will give an opportunity. And yes, there are hundreds of case studies for me where I went through this as a person and as a leader. And in all the cases, we had to find a way. When I say we, I was always in the front as a leader. I said that, look, I will not stay behind and tell my team, you guys work on that. So I used to sit with them. I used to visit the sites. I used to sit on the track to work with them. And we used to sit in the labs doing the tests, meet the client almost on and off for every problem. So you have to do all that. And since I and my team together, we work together. Again, I say that as a leader, at one point of time, you cannot depend on the teamwork alone. You have to say that, look, the team is as good as me, but I am the leader. So I have to take a call that I am taking this forward. So there the word I comes into my picture. As an individual contributor, I was talking about, I will do this, I will do this. Later on, when I became a manager, I started talking about, we will do it. We have now a team player role. Then suddenly I became a leader, and then I started again talking about I will do this. Now I have to take this forward. So this is like a transition, it keeps happening. And every time when it happens, once you are a leader, when there is always a saying that when you fail, you are always alone. There is nobody to tell you that. When you are successful, yes, you have lot of people who come and say that, yes, I have my hand in your success. Fine with me. I have never had any issues. I had my failures. We saw cases where we didn't get paid for the work done. We did not do the work in the right way. We had errors coming out in our softwares, whatever we were developing on the engineering side. So we struggled. It is not a very nice, easy path. But every time there was a failure, we came out with a renewed vigor and energy, and we said, no, how can this go wrong? We will do it. So another important thing we learned during the Delhi Metro phase was planning. The first and foremost in any project is plan your work properly, then automatically execution becomes easy. So we spent nearly 50% up to 60% of the time on planning, on proper planning. Then the rest is just 40%. Execution became a cakewalk. So we had fantastic customer also in DMRC. They were giving us the encouragement. And it was really a showcase of a project those days in 2002.
Very nice.
And based on the success, then continued projects have come in Jaipur and other cities in India. And while doing this, I was also looking at the world. So it is not that the company will do only for Indian metros and Indian railway projects. We have to do for a global requirement. So we started working for Singapore projects, for Athens Metro in 2004, and for Incheon Railway in Seoul. So, we started spreading out. And that is how the confidence from our European brothers, they understood that, yes, India is capable of doing good engineering design. They can be a manufacturing source for us. They can be a hub to manufacture some products and export. So it's a journey, In every journey, there are hiccups, there are problems. At every point of time, there will be somebody who will say, I told you so that you will fail. But yes, we faced all of them, and I faced. There were cases where a couple of months we went without our salaries also. We were bankrupt. So at that point of time, we didn't lose our courage. And I, as a leader, did not lose my courage. I said, let's take it forward. And then the opportunities came one after the other. It was not just I stayed in one organization. I moved into other organizations also. So learning the company's requirements or the field domain requirements is the technical expertise, which is a trait that is to be developed. Second is nurture your team and ensure that. And last but not the least is communicate. Never keep things to you. As much as possible, you communicate, good or bad. Tell your team that we are facing a trouble here. And these are the likely solutions that we are looking at. And the team will travel with you. And this is what has happened to me. And every failure, whenever I had trouble, I took my team into confidence. Communication played a very important role.
Sir, I have a follow-up question here, is that we are seeing a lot of digitization happening in railways.
Yeah.
So in the last 10 years, we've seen a massive leap which railway industry worldwide has taken from traditional railway methodologies to digitization of railways. And in addition to, on top of it, we are seeing a lot of buzz being created by rail cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science applications in railways. So how do you see these technology evolution within railways impacting rail leaders for future? Means do they really need to be well adept with all these modern technologies, or an appreciation of these technologies is good enough for them to go? How do you see a correlation between the evolution of railway industry
quite an apt question and quite a good question, Sumit. Here, I would like to say, just now I said technical expertise is required. But the way the world is changing and developing, you have to stay where you are, you have to keep running.
Yes.
Right? So here in my own experience, fortunately, I would call it, I did not see much of artificial intelligence and IoT and cybersecurity issues at that point of time. But now, when I just look back, even 4G at that point of time, GSMR, which was a 2G, was itself a new technology. It was a revolution. Electronic interlocking was a revolution. Automatic train protection was a completely new technology in itself. ERTMS, ETCS technologies introduced early 2000. They were all new technologies. So we went through that. At that point of time, those were the things. And the conventional manager in me, or the conventional leader in me, at that point of time was getting a little bit nervous, thinking why the railway is changing so much. But now look at the present day leader, they have to see much more changes. And these are all unseen, AI, your IoTs, these are all not like a physical hardware that you see. They are all somewhere. Okay. You see cybersecurity, somebody hacks the railway system, and then the whole services get affected. So all these things have to have a preparation upfront in terms of making your protective systems. Okay, one is done with a malicious intent. Okay, somebody would like to damage your system. Somebody will do it with a mischievous thing. It is not a malicious thing. They say that, okay, it's a fun, I will do it. Maybe a 13-year-old boy could the other day stop the entire ticketing operations in one of the countries in Europe. So these type of things are done with a mischievous intent, but nevertheless, it affects the operation. So a rail leader, he or she should see that when they are acting on the solution, when they are performing the solution, these solutions, whatever they are working on, for example, it's a system. See, railway is nothing but a group of 5 different systems other than the civil work. Civil is the viaducts and track and all that. And rest is all your rolling stock, your signaling system, your telecom system, your ticketing system, and electrical system. These are the 5 active subsystems, okay, other than the civil. So these 5 systems, earlier they used to have the silo way of working, but now they are all intertwined. Now everybody has to learn something about others. Now within the signaling and telecommunication, these two have almost become interlinked now. Earlier, telecom was a separate one where only the loco pilots were talking on VHF radios and all that, but now it is no more that. Your telecom is controlling the train operation. Train itself has got TCMS. When you are doing all these things, the leader cannot stay somewhere behind and say that, no, I am only a manager or I am only a team leader, I can't learn everything. They should have the appreciation of the technology, and they should be as much as possible prepared to understand what will happen if they don't do this. The consequences of not having this are very severe.
So you were saying that railways require a new playbook for grooming rail leaders for tomorrow, for another 10
Absolutely.
years.
See, today's technology is still good, I would not say, but the thing is, in future, you have to ensure the future rail leaders, again, on a lighter side, I can tell that the old managers that we were, taking a carrot and stick policy, that never works anymore. In this generation itself, we have seen that. So if I tell that, no, these are the rules, these are the guidelines, you have to work according to that. No way. So now you have to become flexible and adaptable. New things are coming up. Maybe it's time for the younger generation to become the leaders straight away, because they are more open to these new technologies and cybersecurity, cloud and edge and 5Gs. And these are the new things. And railway is very quick to embrace all these things.
Okay.
So better we get prepared and then we start building our resources and ourselves as well as our teams to be ready for this.
So I'll ask a contradictory question, sir. What gaps do you see in technical people when you would have seen hundreds and thousands of technical people whom you've tried to groom them as leaders? So what are the gaps that you've actually seen, especially with the technical people who are trying to transition into leadership role? What are the first set of things that you think that they need to work upon? First, of course, could be communication is something that is good, but what apart from this?
Of course, the most important thing is a change in the mindset. See, because again, every engineer cannot become the great leader and unless they work towards it. It is not like leaders are not born. They say that earlier days used to say that he is a born leader. But I personally believe that leaders also are made. You have to work for that. And then when you are trying to transit yourself from a role of a manager to a leader, you have to now take things from a visionary point of view. Look at the vision and the objectives, which normally, at a managerial level or at an engineer level, people don't look at the bigger picture. They always look at their project, their delivery and all that. In fact, it is very sad to say some people who are working on the design of an engineering thing, that fellow doesn't even bother to know what is the cost involved. He is not a finance expert at all. He thinks finance is somebody's baby. Or similarly, somebody talks about, I can do it, but it will take time, and time is not mine. So time management is part of, an engineer's role. And we all learned that now the first letter of engineer E is for economics. You have to understand the economy of the whole thing and the economics of the whole subject. With this, the engineers, when they are transitioning to a role of a manager and a leader, first thing they have to say is they should keep that thought process that I am an engineer and I am responsible only for my small domain. They should look at the bigger picture, and they should also go up and have what is known as a helicopter view. Unless they have that vision developed to them. And this is not that you can just say that, okay, he comes with that talent by birth. No, they have to learn. And when they learn, they will always try to look at, okay, what will happen after 10 years? What will happen after 20 years? After 35 years? Can you look beyond 50 years? So once you do that, then automatically, the leaders are made. At this point of time, many engineers still in India, they still think that, okay, I will be an engineer. I will grow, and then I will become an expert in my field. And then after that, I have to become a manager, I have to become a leader. But then I will not let that guy below me to learn. Succession. This is very important. Delegation. So we have this problem still in our industry and our sector. People try to hold on to their knowledge, whatever they have. But this is something they have to let go. I'm not saying they should not learn. They have that knowledge with them. They can still continue. But the most important thing is they have to allow the others to do it. And yes, nobody can fool me because I know what is the right and what is the wrong thing. And again, don't criticize if somebody fails. As a leader, you should start looking at trying to empathize with your people and then say, there's a lot of HR management in this. Now you become from the task manager to a people manager and you start working towards that. So I can say, yes, if not 100 out of 100 engineers, at least 90 out of 100 engineers can be groomed into becoming a good managers And maybe another 50% of that can become great leaders also.
So, sir, you've recently seen evolution of this executive rail management program by IIM Kashipur, and you mentored the students of this particular cohort. Could you let us know about your experience? And I have a follow-up question on this: is that how do you see India in the global rail industry? The position of India shaping up in the global industry. So let us first start with the.
These are two different topics altogether. The first one is, yes, at every stage of a career, learning has to happen. Okay, so self-learning is something which we always believed and we learned and all that. In-house training programs, in-house organizational development work, plus technical training programs are always done by various organizations. It all depends on how much time. And there also, I see many people saying that I'm very busy, so I can't go for this training session. Organizations, the HR departments create 3-man days per year and all that as a mandatory training. But I know so much of reluctance that happens in the teams. They hesitate to go or they don't want to go. And even if they attend, they just do it for the sake of, finishing it. But if you are very serious about learning from the self point of view, first you learn, you be a self-learner, then takes the next step. So in your leadership role, there are so many things which an organization cannot teach. So someone has to do from outside. There are organizations, B schools and all that now the industry and academia have to come together. This happens in many countries, including Singapore, close to us. And India somehow did not do this all these years, but now it is slowly opening up. So every company which is in this business and every client, today there are multiple clients, it's not just Indian Railway, there are metro organizations, corporations everywhere. So each organization, if they think that, yes, my people and the people from the supplier side, if they all join together and learn and try to see how the new ways of managing things are done, then it will help all of us. So the courses that are tailor-made for rail segment, I had been to your classes done in 1 year PG diploma in IIM Kashipur. Of course, still there are a lot of things that we can do. But some of the important lessons for a manager who is preparing himself into a leadership role, it's very, very appreciating. I can very well appreciate how it is being done. The curriculum, the topics and the time, all these things are very nicely managed. And you are not doing just a 1-day course or a 3 days course. You are doing over a year. And there is a commitment from the individuals. So, of course, they are spending some money on this and naturally they would like to get the return on their investment. So everyone takes this very seriously. And I think not only IIM Kashipur, I think other B schools and other technology institutes, NITs and IITs also should take it. They can take it in the form of an MSc for 1 year or 1.5 year course with the technical stream. And IIMs can focus more on the management's knowledge and the other areas of being a leader. So if that is done, then the seriousness will definitely be shown from the industry. So industry and academia will join together in more such events and more people will get benefit.
Okay.
So this is how I see that these programs are very much essential. And it is nothing new, in the other industry domains it is happening. Rail is a little bit late to catch up. I think now rail also is doing this. I think if I am right, automobile and process control, these are the organizations, chemical industries, they have their own associations which will do all these activities and they also do a lot of programs in various management schools. And this is required to be done in railway in a larger way. Okay. Coming to your the second part of the question.
How do you see India?
So India as a global player, yes, our ambition is to become a global leader. We always say that. At the same time, you cannot just leapfrog from today's position to a global leader straight away. These are the Kaizen steps. You have to take small steps and then stay there, ascertain where you are and then ensure that you are positioned there and don't slip backwards and then take the next step forward. So it is a case of a continual improvement when it comes to talking in terms of the quality language or an ISO 9000 type of jargon. It is a requirement that everyone has to become a global player. Coming to think of it, Indian engineers are already there in most of the European projects. If I see many European rail companies and rail customers, you see quite a good number of Indian engineers and managers working there.
Yes.
So we have the talent and we have the right basic education. The education system in India gives you that mathematical and analytical and logical capability. So automatically you will go there. The opportunity has to be given. Now they are getting the opportunities. So I know for myself, so many engineers I recruited and trained and nurtured them here. They're all doing fantastic jobs in European rail and American projects. Europe is like a nerve center for the entire modern technologies, I would say. So India is very close. I think, of course, we always compete with China. We always compare ourselves with China. China has done an extremely good job. 25 years ago, they were very, very primitive in terms of their railway systems, but they worked. The entire country went on one particular task, and there were few leaders and there were many followers, and then everyone worked towards that, and they never questioned. India is still to catch up.
Yes.
But yes, we have all the qualities to make a global leader, and with an active government, proactive government, which can also give the avenues. And see, unless the government, because as I told, these are large infrastructure projects and very, very complex. So there's a lot of investment that has to go, and only governments can support this type of investment.
Yes.
So when they do it, they have to also think of not only for that particular city or the zonal railway, it should also be for the country. A simple zonal railway in India is as big as a country outside in Europe. So if we can do for one zonal railway or one sector of India, it is as good as doing a small country in Europe. So we should be in that position to look global. If not now, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, we have to look at that. And for that, yes, you have to move out of your comfort zone. Your engineers have to be ready to take the jump and the challenge and go there. See, after all, it is not so easy to go and work in different countries. Culturally, you have to adapt to their conditions. So it needs some sacrifices. So if we do that, well and good, we will be a global player.
Okay.
And rail has all the opportunities globally, because this is where the technology is really leapfrogging, changing every day. New things are being embraced. So India has got all the good chances to be one of the top 3 in the world, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you. On this optimistic note, sir, we'll conclude today's session. And thank you so much for giving us these valuable insights.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure talking to you, Sumit, and your team, and you're doing a fantastic job. And the environment here in IIM Kashipur is really like heaven. And we are able to breathe fresh air, sit outside at 11 o'clock in the morning and not feeling the heat and of summer in India. And I love to come back again and again for your further programs.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
We will definitely be inviting you, sir.
Always a pleasure.
With this optimistic note, we come to the end of today's podcast. And I would like to thank Mr. Ravi Prakash for giving us these valuable insights. I would also like to invite you to explore this executive postgraduate program with IIM Kashipur. We have not trying to create just another executive program here. We're trying to start a change in the rail industry. For many, many years, there has been a need to develop rail leaders for global rail industry. I strongly believe that India can be the skill capital for the entire world, especially in the rail domain. We have thousands of engineers working with global railway companies already. All we need is to build a systematic ecosystem which can fuel the growth of global railway economy. And this IIM Kashipur program has already started to create buzz with 70 plus professionals joining this program in the very first year and looking at becoming global rail leaders. So I invite you to explore this program, and we would be happy to host you at IIM Kashipur. Thank you. Looking forward to see you in the next podcast. Thanks.